to him, what happens to such a person? Those whose thoughts are set on me, I straightway deliver from the ocean of death-bound existence, O Partha, Arjuna. Shri Krishna says that to those whose thoughts are set on him, he straightway delivers from the ocean of death-bound existence. Note that Shri Krishna said that he delivers them straight away. This is the consequence of bhakti, devotion. God does not say that those who worship him with unswerving devotion, he gives them a lot of money, a very big business, a lot of fame in society, a lot of power, a lot of beauty. God has not said this. What does God says? God says that to those who perform unswerving devotion on him, by having their thoughts set on him, he straightway delivers them from the ocean of death-bound existence. Therefore, all the things that human being runs after in the material world, God frees us from all of them. What is the proof of whether bhakti, devotion one performs, is right or wrong? I gave one proof earlier in this chapter in the last class, that you yourself should get bliss. This is the first proof. If you want bhakti yoga, the yoga devotion, then the first proof of whether the bhakti is right or wrong is that you should get bliss from it. You should feel enriched from within. This is the first proof. The second proof of whether the path of bhakti devotion one has taken is right or wrong is that the fear of death should go away. When God is saying in this verse that he delivers one from the ocean of death-bound existence, then this does not mean that if he picks us up and puts us there, or that we will never die too. No, it means that the person no longer has the fear of death. Ask yourself whether bhakti devotion is right or wrong. Create a table and make it have 2 columns and 3 rows. In the 2 columns and 3 rows of this table, on the top left-hand side column, put questions about the bhakti you are performing. On the top left-hand cell, questions about the bhakti devotion you're performing. And on the right-hand side, the header for the column should be answers. On the second row down, on the first column, put, do I get bliss out of this? And on the bottom row, on the left-hand column, put, do I have a fear of death? So the table should look, questions about the bhakti devotion you're performing. Do I get bliss out of this? Do I have a fear of death? And the second column should say answers. If one feels as if, yes, I have a fear of death, then consider that you are yet to attain true bhakti devotion, and it is not bhakti with unswerving love. This will not be true bhakti devotion. This will not be bhakti devotion at the peak. It may possibly be normal worship, and it may be practice, but the fruit has not yet ripened. When 10-year-old children are playing together, and a 5-year-old child comes amongst them, then the 5-year-old child will ask them what they are playing, and they'll call this child unripened lemon. In the same way, if we are not getting bliss from our bhakti devotion, or if we fear death, then consider in the path of bhakti, we are unripened lemons. Harijan nati tayo ture, shid gumam me gume. The fear of death should go away. When does the fear of death go away? He who lives his life in a beautiful way will have his fear of death go away. This is because death is nothing other than an extremity in life. Death is an extremity of life. If we're sitting in a car, then when the journey finishes, we have to come out of the car. Why do we fear death? Our scriptures have given us a very beautiful reason why. The first reason why we fear death is the ego. It is because the ego is there that we fear death. What is the ego? It is the identification with the body. The thinking that I am the body is the ego, and that is why the person has fear. This is the very first reason why a person has a fear of death. The second reason behind this is that while we are living in the material world, all the me, and me that we've gathered together is all going to go at the time of death. On whose support does our ego last? On whose support does our me last? Our whole ego and our whole me lasts on the support of mine. Why do we say I am? It is because I have. How do we prove our I am and our existence? How do we project each of ourselves? It is through our possessions. I am because I have. It is because I have a house that I'm something. It is because I have a wife that I'm something. And if my life is beautiful, then I am something more. It is because I have a business that I'm something. And if I have a big business, then I'm something more. How does all of this I am get projected? It is because I have. The more I have that we have, then the more that our balloon of I am gets bigger. That what happens at the time of death is that the I have goes away and gets pulled away, and all the I am that is standing there on the support of the I have, when all the I have goes away, then I am breaks apart. This is what we call fear. We fear that, am I going to go? The very thing because of which I consider myself to be high is all going to be gone, be it wealth, body, beauty, power, our own people, all of this is going to go. Does this mean that I will not remain? If there is such a reason for the fear of death, then it is this, the ego. Secondly, human beings have the fear of death because they are bondages of feelings. This is why people have a fear of death. We're sitting here having tied feelings with objects. We're sitting here having tied feelings with people. We're sitting here having tied feelings with circumstances. And it is a very big riddle in the field of spiritual knowledge that God has given us these feelings, at the same time these feelings break. It is not as if I have given rise to the feelings. It is not as you have given rise to the feelings. If a really nice person dies and we have had a friendship with them, then our feelings come out. Do we not give rise to these feelings? Do you not say that I will tie feelings with this person? No, we cannot do that. If we try to tie it, then it will certainly not tie. Feelings tie themselves. When all of this happens, then who does it? I do not do it. It just happens. It happens in spite of me. It is beyond me. In the same way that these feelings get tied, in the same way these feelings also break. This is our experience. We get sorrows because our feelings break at the time of death. These are the reasons for sorrows at the time of death. The first reason for the fear of death is the ego, and the second is the bondages of feelings. Then can it not happen at the time of dying? Feelings, the person decides that these relations are tied to temporary things that can break. This is because we cannot say that we will not tie feelings. If we're tying feelings knowingly, then we can knowingly break them, or we can knowingly stop ourselves from tying these feelings. We get tied to them. Therefore, just decide one thing, that after being tied, these feelings can also break. If this is the case, then there will never be a fear of breaking them. Third, the reason why we fear death is ignorance. There are two types of ignorance. The first is the ignorance of I do not know where I'll go after death, and that is why the people have fear. If someone has to go to a strange place that they don't know, then they will have fear. It is very habitual. One does not know where they're going to go. The second ignorance is about the self. One does not know who they are. And in the field of death, both these ignorances are there. One does not know who they are, and one does not know where they're going. It is written in the Bhagavad Gita by Srimad Adi Shankaracharya that Gastavam koham kuta ayas kame janani ko me tata. Who are you? Who am I? Where did you come from, and where did I come from? Who is my mother? Who is my father? One does not know any of this. If a small child has become lost in a fair and it does not know anything, for example, who it is, it does not know how to speak, it does not know how to walk, it does not know how to express itself, and so on, then what state would such a child be in? It is such a helpless state. There are so many people around the child, and the child only recognizes his mother's face, but he does not know what his mother looks like, what his mother is wearing, and what his mother's name is. The child does not know anything. The child knows inside that this is my mother. If she came out in front of him, the child would know that this is my mother. Apart from this, the child cannot describe his mother and cannot talk about his mother. The child does not know anything about his mother and cannot tell anyone anything about his mother. Can that child do anything apart from cry? The child will cry. This is the same state that we are at the time of death. The reason why we cry at the time of death is that we don't know who we are and we do not know where we're going to go. We do not know how we have come here. We know that our mother in the form of the Supreme Soul is there. This is because I am here, that there must be a mother. If my mother were not there, then I would not be here. Because my mother is there, I am here. But what is my mother like? Where is my mother? And what is my mother? I have no identification of this. This is the difficulty. One is not able to describe God. The child says that when it is in its mother's lap, then it gets a lot of peace. But if the child is snatched from its mother, or that child becomes separated from its mother, then will the child not be able to describe its mother? This is the state of the individual soul. One is sitting near the Supreme Soul, and when one has some communion with the Supreme Soul, then one feels peace and feels bliss at that time. But if one is snatched from the Supreme Soul, if one goes away from the Lord, then how will one be able to describe God? One will not even know about God. God says that he who makes his mind one pointed on me does not have this difficulty anymore. Therefore, each and every one of the reasons for the fear of death gets ruled out one by one. This is because one has become a devotee and one has made his mind one-pointed on the Supreme Soul. One has remembered that this is my mother. Because of this, the reason for fear no longer remains. And I will say it once again, that when one lives in their life beautifully, then they have no reason to fear death. The person thinks that Bahut Nache Gopal. I have played this game too many times. I like a doho, which means a poem of 4 lines of Kabir very much. Nale dole shishuka thale vase nahi ana hai. Karle shingar chatura beli sajan ke gajana hai. Bathe, wash, and be presentable. There is no coming back from here. Decorate yourself, clever person. It is time to go to your beloved's house. He is saying that dying is like going to one's beloved's house. One has to prepare for this by bathing and getting ready. One has to bathe and become pure. Until now, one has only put dirt on themselves in their life, and therefore they have to bathe. They have to remove all the stains that have come. They have to be presentable. When we go towards the Lord, then we have to do all of this. This is all preparation. We cannot come back from there. We have to decorate ourselves, and this is not a decoration from the body. This is the decoration of the mind. This is the decoration of the antakaran, the inner being. This is the decoration of the soul. By using the word chatur, meaning clever, Kabir has done something wonderful. Only a clever person would prepare the mind, the intellect, and the antakaran, the inner being. Each and every person prepares their own body. Kabir does not call a person who prepares their body chatur, clever. It is about the preparation of the mind, the intellect, and the antakaran, the inner being. One has to go to their beloved's house. One has to go and meet their beloved. One would have to make efforts throughout their whole lives. Shri Krishna will say later in this chapter that Abhyasa yogena tato mam icha aptum dhyanam jaya. Seek to reach me by the practice of concentration, O winner of wealth. Arjun. One has to practice throughout their whole lives. If we have become ill and the doctor gives us medicine and tells us that we should take this medicine for 1 month and that we should meet him on a certain date, and if it is a good patient, the patient will take that medicine every day for a month at the required times at morning, noon or evening. He will take the medicines when he should take the medicines. He follows the instructions with the medicine. If it says that he should drink the medicine after shaking it, then he drinks the medicine after shaking it. He does everything according to the rules that are there. But let us say that there is someone who brings the medicine home from the doctor and places it in his house, but does not take the medicine every day, and then remembers about the medicine 2 days before his appointment with the doctor, at the end of the month, thinking that the appointment with the doctor is just 2 days, and all his medicine is left, so he'll have to eat it in one go. What is the state of this person? Or it can also happen that when he brings the medicine home, then he begins to take it at the beginning, and when he takes the medicine, it has an effect on him, and it feels a little good. He thinks that if it feels a little good, then what is the use of taking medicine, and puts it to one side and with his work. Then when the appointment comes to meet the doctor will say, no, something is wrong, you have not taken the medicine. You should take the medicine from the day on which I gave it to you, in the way which I gave it to you, according to the instructions you got with it, and within the rules. If you do this, then it will have an effect on you. You should finish the entire course. In the same way, God sent us at the time of birth. He gave us a prescription for our whole lives that you should take the medicine in a form of bhakti, devotion. And when the next appointment with God comes, when the person is 70, 75 or 80, then if this person is taking medicine within the rules, then such a person will attain to God. What the majority of us do is that we put this medicine to the side, and when the age of 70 comes, we realize that the appointment has come, and we begin to drink the whole medicine in one go. In the morning we go to one temple, at noon we go to another temple, in the evening we go to another temple. Whichever place we go to and wherever we go to, we are turning the mara, the prayer beads. From drinking all the medicine in one go, nothing will happen. The medicine will be emptied, and there is no denying this, but the consequence that should have come from this does not come. And many people are such that at the beginning they are doing a bit of bhakti devotion and it feels good. They get the grace of God in a form of wealth or something else, and then they put this medicine to the side thinking that everything is fine. But this will not work. You should take the medicine according to the rules. And taking this medicine according to the rules is bhakti, devotion. If we apply what we do in everyday life in spirituality, then what else will we need? For one who does this, Shri Krishna says that such a person's thoughts are set on the Supreme Soul. From the perspective of spirituality, we must understand two concepts. Having one's thoughts set on the Lord is wisdom, and having the Lord in one's thoughts is bhakti, devotion. Look what route we are on. If our thoughts are on the Lord, then this is the path of Gnan, wisdom. We must make some efforts or read something, our thoughts become set on God, and we do our activities. This is the path of Gnan, wisdom. But having the Lord in one's thoughts is bhakti, devotion. The saints of Maharashtra say, Rupa Pahati Losani. God is sitting in our eyes, and therefore wherever we look, we see the Supreme Soul. Narsi Mehta sang, Akil Brahman Ma Ek Tu Shri Hari Jujve Rupe Ananda Base. Oh Hari, you're the only one in the whole universe. You take many different forms in the world. The Lord should be in your thoughts. Shri Krishna says that such a person lives his life in a nice way. Then what is the commodity to live one's life in a nice way? To whom can you say that they have lived their lives in a nice way? Great saints give their explanation how. This is the commodity of achieving the state that Shri Krishna described in this verse of having one's thoughts set on the Supreme Soul. The first thing needed is a pure intellect. If one wishes to make their thoughts concentrated on the Supreme Soul, then they should purify the intellect. While the intellect does not become purified, then the intellect does not go towards the Supreme Soul. It is not a question of taking it because it just does not go there. Therefore, the first thing needed is a pure intellect. The second thing needed is control of the mind. When the intellect becomes purified, then controlling one's mind becomes straightforward. Thirdly, the craving towards objects goes away. The mind that was running after objects makes use of those objects, but no longer has a covetousness of chasing for those objects. There is an objective happiness, but there is no craving after objects. Therefore, the craving after objects goes away. Fourth, one should have a habit of being in solitude. That is why I always say in my discourses that during every day for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you should spend your time in such a way that you are alone. The state of being all in one is aloneness. It is very essential. You should do dhyan, meditation and pranayam, breathing exercises, where you are completely alone and you are with yourself. I'll go even further to say that when you do mara, turning a prayer bead, reading the scriptures and jap, chanting the name of God, then this will not count as being alone, because being alone is when it's just you and your mind and nothing else. This is because mara, turning a prayer bead, is a support. A mantra is also a support. You should certainly chant a mantra and you should certainly perform jap, chanting the name of God, but you should keep 10 minutes where you do not even do jap, chanting the name of God. You are to yourself and that is it. When this happens, then you get divine experiences. Those people who do it will know. You should sit alone. No matter if there is a crowd all around you, you will be alone. And those who have learnt how to create an island for themselves, then no matter what the world does to you, you will never be unhappy. The more and more a human being forms a habit of being alone, then you become that much more internally powerful. The more that we depend on other people, then the more that we give other people the power to make us unhappy. When we depend on others, then we have given them power. The moment when we say that I do not feel comfortable without you, then this means that you're giving the other person so much power that take me, I am open, so make me sad. This is because if we do not feel comfortable without a person, then we have to tolerate whatever they say. No, one has to form a habit of being alone with their self. This is when you are to yourself. Not only that, but it is a time of internal introspection. At the beginning, 10 minutes feels like 10 years, but the more and more you develop, that 10 minutes will feel like 10 seconds gone, and you feel like as if you want to sit for some more. The bliss of this is worth experiencing. One must form a habit of being alone. The fifth thing is controlling one's intake of food, and buying food that does not mean chapatis and vegetables, but the food of all the senses. It is said in the Upanishads that each and every sense has a food. Just like dinner is food for the tongue and a sense of taste, in the same way, visions are food for the eyes, words are the food of the ears, touch is the food of the skin, etc. Each and every sense organ has food. Therefore, this principle means to give each and every sense organ less. Rather than less, if I were to say in words, then you should only give your senses what is necessary. Only give them what is absolutely necessary. If your senses do not need it, then you do not need to give it to your senses. Often at Guruji's discourses, when the birth of Sri Krishna is being described, or an event with a lot of feelings is taking place, Guruji sits and closes his eyes. He does not need to see anything. What does he need to see on the wall? That which is to be listened is necessary, and therefore he sits with his eyes closed. And it is his own dream that such a group is prepared, that when 500 people with him have closed their eyes, then he will get a lot of bliss by closing the eyes and speaking. This is because what is there to see in a big hall? But it is a basic principle of body language that when we are speaking to someone and have eye contact with them, then you can concentrate on them. If I am sitting there having closed my eyes and all of you are looking around, then I will not be able to communicate what I wish to communicate. It is because there are limits that I have to look. I am not looking because I enjoy looking, but one's concentration is maintained, and that is why Guruji does this. He does it subconsciously, but a lot of people have told him that when you are looking and your gaze falls somewhere, then it feels as if your gaze may fall on us, and if we're not concentrating, then you will know. That is why we are attentively looking at you. It is a good thing, but can it not be so that everyone in the audience has their eyes closed, and Guruji is speaking also with his eyes closed? The bliss of this is very nice. What I mean to say is that each and every sense organ's food should be controlled. This is controlling one's food intake. And lastly, being pulled endlessly towards one's life purpose. One should be pulled endlessly behind one's life purpose. And this purpose can only be God, as we decided earlier in this chapter. It is because our goals keep changing that God keeps getting postponed. The purpose of life keeps changing, and that is why the priority of God keeps going further and further away. If there is an endless pull towards one's life purpose, then one's thoughts will be set on the Supreme Soul, and one who lives his life in this way will have a beautiful life. And when such a person's life becomes beautiful, then their death is also beautiful. Shri Krishna says in this verse that to those whose thoughts are set on him, he straightway delivers from the ocean of death-bound existence. Shri Krishna uses the words bhavami nachirat, meaning straightway deliver. Shri Krishna says straightway. Madhusudan Saraswati ji gives a very good interpretation of this as tasmin neva janmani. In the same life he is liberated. Therefore liberation is simple and straightforward. Removing the fear of death is simple and straightforward. It is easy. One should have an attraction towards God. When God says that he will deliver the devotee from death-bound existence, then we like this very much. Everybody wants liberation from death. The reason for this is that we are living in the material world, but each and every person has the wish to become free from the material world. Each and every person wishes to become free from the material world. Why is this? There are so many limits in the material world. Great saints describe that there are three main difficulties of the material world, and there are solutions for all three of them. The first difficulty of the material world is that what one expects never happens. Whenever somebody says that they want to become free from the world, then why do they wish to become free from the material world? The first reason is the first difficulty in the material world, that what one expects never happens. Great saints say that there is a reason why what one expects does not happen, yet the mind has a habit and movement of expecting something on the outside. After we get some things that we expected, then the mind just jumps for something else. What one expects never happens. Our state is like the fox in the story from the Panchatantra. A fox had woken up early in the morning and was very hungry. He went looking for food. It was very hungry and thought that it would need a lot of food in order to satisfy its hunger. At that moment the fox saw its own shadow. The sun was rising and its rays were coming from the side, and therefore the fox's shadow looked very long. You may have seen that your shadow looks very long early in the morning. It is unfortunate that people living in big cities are unable to see their shadows. If a person can see his shadow, then he will attain a lot of knowledge. The fox saw its shadow and became very knowledgeable. Think about when the last time was that you saw your own shadow. You will not remember. You'll be lucky if you get to see your shadow. Otherwise, you will not even think about this. The fox saw its shadow lengthened by the sun's rays and thought about how big it was. It then thought about how hungry it was, and that it was so big that it would need something big to eat. It thought that only an elephant could satisfy its hunger, and nothing less than an elephant would do. The fox went looking for an elephant. Now when anything small came, then it would not come under the fox's attention. The fox just wanted the elephant. How could a fox kill an elephant? It kept searching, and half a day went like this. The sun came on top of him, and the fox was hungry, thirsty and tired from all the walking. It could not find an elephant at all, and put its head down. It could not even walk, and it could not even hold its head up. When its head went down, then it saw something. Because the sun was directly above it, the fox's shadow became extremely small. The fox thought, "Is this how I am?" When the sun in the evening comes above you, then your shadow becomes extremely small. The fox thought that now, even if it found a mouse, then it would do. In the morning the fox went looking for an elephant, then later even a small mouse would do. This is the state of us all. At the beginning of life we have expected so much. We say that I will do this and that. I'll create a business empire. I will do this and that. I will earn this much. Then nothing small will come under your gaze, and when it comes then you'll reject it because you want something so big. Then when one turns 40 or 50 and the sunset of one's life has come, then one will think that I am a typist earning £3,400 a month in a government office, and this is enough. The mind has a habit of expecting things on the outside. The second difficulty of the material world is that one does not get what one asks for, and there is a reason behind this. The mind is an unsatisfied beggar. The mind does not have a tin for seeking alms, because if it had this, then it would be filled for some time. The mind is like the mind has a bottomless tin. Whatever comes inside, the mind always goes out. It is always too little. One never gets what one asked for, and this is because the mind has a habit of asking again and again. When one gets something, then it is taken for granted and one asks for something else. The third difficulty of the material world is that one cannot become complete. If you ask anyone how they are and everything is fine, then they'll say that everything else is fine, but it is slightly too little. This slightly too little never becomes complete for anyone. Each and every person has slightly too little. They say that if this little happens and this happens, every person always feels that something is missing. One cannot become complete in the material world. Because one does not like being incomplete, there is only one solution, and that is to belong to one who is complete. If you do this, then you can become complete. You should belong to the one who is complete. Saints give a very nice example. When women want to be millionaires, but they cannot become one, then someone will say that it does not matter, just marry a millionaire so that she becomes a millionaire. Kachalal started a limited company with 2, 4 or 5 friends. Kachalal had some facilities, and therefore he gave some initial shares and made himself a director of the company. Kachalal did not know how to do anything else. He did not know how to speak and was uneducated. He did not know English and did not know anything, but Kachalal became a director. He kept telling everyone that he was a director and printed business cards saying Kachalal Director. Then some guests were coming to his house. Kachalal's wife was in the bathroom. Some of the guests woke up in the morning and they wanted to call somewhere. They could not find the number, and therefore they asked Kachalal if Kachalal had a directory. Kachalal said that she is in the bathroom. If Kachalal becomes a director, then his wife becomes a directory. He did not know anything at all. In the same way, one cannot become complete in the material world, and this is the difficulty of everyone. Therefore, there is only one way. Belong to one who is complete. When this happens, then such an state is described in this verse, that it comes by self. When one's thoughts are set on the Supreme Soul, then the Supreme Soul delivers them straight away from the ocean of death-bound existence. The 8th verse is very nice. The Supreme Soul speaks about the whole essence of bhakti devotion in the 8th verse. We will be able to understand bhakti devotion in a formulaic way. End of verse.